Darvelnet Melon Explained, presentada por Ana Karen García Peña, la maestra Argelia Peña Aguilar y el maestro Ezio Saniel Vicentín. Vamos a darles un fuerte aplauso.
Okay, we're going to start today. The first one, please. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of a context overview of what I'm going to explain. I'm going to start with the translation process. This analysis was, I had a translation monograph for my bachelor's degree, to obtain my bachelor's degree. So I had to do the whole translation process and then the analysis. For my analysis, I chose to do it between Binet and Darvanet's taxonomy and Joseph L. Malone's taxonomy. We're going to start with a little bit of the context of translation in the translation process. We have text requested for translation were intended to be used for further research in the field of contemplative education, a new approach to education. The two articles that I had to translate were dealing with contemplative education. This contemplative education approach is new and has a lot of vocabulary that is very specific to the field, especially for meditation. It has some Sanskrit words and it required a little bit of vocabulary-specific glossaries for this for the meditation field specifically. Using Binet and Darvanet's using Binet and Darvanet's and Malone's taxonomy, it was established which strategies or methods were used during the translation of the text in order to solve the difficulties encountered during the elaboration of the final version. The findings were analyzed and taxonomies were contrasted. The taxonomies are going to be contrasted at the end of the presentation of this analysis that I'm going to do. Okay, right now I'm going to explain a little bit of about the overview of the taxonomies that there are in translation. We have some translation and linguists have developed some theories on translating methods. Having different backgrounds, they identified a variety of techniques that occur during the development of a translation. I have these three specifically because these three are the most important approaches to taxonomies of translation. We have the Russian approach, the American model, and the Canadian view. I'm not going to touch the Russian approach right now, but the American model is the one that I'm going to deal with today. We have the first one is Eugene Nida. He was the first one to introduce these taxonomies and the analysis of translation into the American model. And then we have Joseph L. Malone, who did the following taxonomy. He describes his taxonomy as kind of informal in his own book, but he does use semantics and syntax for his definition of the taxonomies. We have the Canadian view. We have Binet and Darvanet's taxonomy. It has a considerable influence in the methods of other approaches, and it has become the most used method for translation analysis. I think that some of you might be students of translation at UTRO, and this is the approach that we see during this class. I think we have a little bit of knowledge about Binet and Darvanet. That is why I'm not going to touch a lot on Binet and Darvanet since Malone is our priority in this presentation. We have Joseph L. Malone's taxonomy. His taxonomy is presented in his book, The Science of Linguistics in the Art of Translation, some tools from linguistics for the analysis of and practice of translation. His book, he is a linguist, and he says that he is going to use linguistics to help in the analysis of translation. So his point of view is more of a linguist to the point of view, to the analysis of translation. We're going to start with the analysis. In the first analysis, we're going to do Binet and Darvanet's taxonomy. I'm not going to touch a lot on it. But here we have the name of the procedure, the SARS language. These two are my examples from my text, from the articles that I translated, and then we have a short explanation on what they are. Borrowing is just a borrowing of words from the original source text into the target language. In my source language, we have meditation translate from the Sanskrit, Dhyana Bhavana, and even Samadhi, into the target language, which is la palabra meditación proviene de las palabras del sánscrito, Dhyana Bhavana, e incluso Samadhi. Within the text, the writer is explaining this term, so I didn't see the need to translate them or find an equivalent. The next one is Kop. It is a literal translation of a short phrase. For this case, it was a very curious case because Inner Sciences didn't have an exact translation or even a field translation for this term. Inner Sciences is a new term in the source language, in the source text language, and in the target language. So I used Kop to translate Inner Sciences. Just my coining of this new term for this translation. The next one, this is the most popular and common literal translation. We have very slight changes in the target language, addition of articles, the contraction of we talk into hablamos, and that's it. These aspects are specified in Vinaya and Darvinette, and there is no change in these ones. Transposition. We have transposition. Transposition is a technique in which words are changed from the original grammatical function into the source language to a completely different one in the target language. Okay, so a change of grammatical function. In my example, we have accompanying belief system. Accompanying is working as noun companion, and then we have junto con. It is a phrase. Okay, so it changes of function, and it is a transposition. We have modulation. It is it is when the translator changes the focus of a sentence without changing the original sense. We just change focus from negative to affirmative, to passive to active voice. So it's just very, this is like change of focus, but the same meaning. Equivalence, I did not see the need to use equivalence in my translations. It is a text that is very technical. So I did not see the need for equivalence. Please. Adaptation, I did not see the use for adaptation in my text as well, but adaptation is used when the target language does not have equivalent to a cultural aspect embedded in the text from the source language that the target language readers will not be able to understand. Okay, amplification, it is when a lexical term needs more words to be explicit into the target language. And reduction is the opposite, when several terms in our source language need to be reduced into just one term. We're going to start right now with Joseph L. Malone's taxonomy. Okay, I am going to say in which terms Malone has an equivalent with Vinaya and Dardanette, so that we have an idea more or less. Okay, in Malone's taxonomy we have a general term, and within the general term we have two different specific terms. For matching we have equation, which is literal translation for Vinaya and Dardanette. My example here is in a social framework wherein I and we live together in community, en un marco social donde el yo y el nosotros vivan juntos en comunidad. The regular addition of an article, and that's it. A literal translation. We have substitution. In substitution, we change a term for its exact equivalent in the target language. We adapt and we change the grammatical function of a word. Substitution is a very curious case because within substitution we have equivalence, we have transposition, and we have equivalence. Equivalence, yes, transposition, and adaptation. Adaptation. Okay, so we have these three different terms that Vinay and Darvinette explain into three, and he just combines it into one. Okay, so in my example, we have what would be a transposition example. We have surrounding only because of the surrounding suspicion, but it becomes into que lo rodea. la sospecha. From an adjective for a noun, we change it into a verb. Okay? So we have matching. Matching, as you can see, is the same term. Malone uses it to convey borrowing, caulk, and false ami, which is false friendship. An example of false friendship would be embarrassing and embarazado. Okay? So the word is not the translation, but it's an error, it's a mistake by the translator. And that is something that was quite interesting for me. Malone dedicates this part to a translation error. That is something that Vinaya and Darbenet do not do. Okay, so we have an example of borrowing or matching, in which hardware and software are completely the same in the target language. Zigzagging is a general term, and then we have divergence and convergence. Divergence is a term in divergence, a term from the source language corresponds to two or more words in the target language. The translator will choose which to use according to the context. This procedure is not in Vinaya and Darbenet's taxonomy. This is different from it. And in this, a term in the source language can have two different meanings, and it's up to the translator to choose which one is more correct according to the context. So we have in the example, if I ask a room full of Americans to meditate for cultural, religious, or spiritual reasons, we have in my translation estadounidenses. Americans can be either americanos or estadounidenses. So I chose estadounidenses because they were talking about the people who live in the United States. Okay, so we have convergence. Convergence, I did not see the need to use it, but it is the exact opposite of divergence. In convergence, the translator has to choose a term in the target language that might not have the specifics of the original word, but that encloses within its meaning the idea that the author was trying to convey. This is a very curious case because it is in the text it said that Romance languages tend to have more specific words than the English language, which usually uses noun and then adjectives to describe it. So what happens is that you will find from English to Spanish, you will find more divergence than convergence. And convergence happens more frequently from in translations that go from Spanish into English. And that happens usually with the loss of number and gender. Okay. Then we have recrescence. Recrescence we have the specific terms are amplification and reduction. However, it is not the same as in Vinaya and Darbenet. It is completely different. I did not see a need for using it in my translation. But the amplification is the addition of extra information, translator notes. This is what we call translator notes. In between parentheses, we add certain information that we feel the target audience needs. For example, if we were translating an article on the properties of turducken, we will have to explain to the Mexican audience what is a turducken, right? So it is a chicken within a dog within a turkey. That we do not know. So we have to explain what a turducken is if we're going to explain its properties, right? Then we have reduction. Reduction is the opposite. In reduction is the elimination of extra information. For example, if we were talking about an article from South Africa that is talking about the properties of tortilla, okay, maybe they will have extra information. Tortilla is a flat bread that is made of corn wheat, but if we're translating it for a Mexican audience, then we do not need that explanation. So we need to reduce. We need to use reduction in this case. That's against the repackaging. Repackaging, diffusion, and condensation are the specific terms. These ones are the equivalent to amplification, and reduction in Vinaya and Darbenet's taxonomy. Diffusion, it is a necessary expansion of one term into more to convey a clearer message in the target language. We have the example, scanning mindfulness meditation. and we have to use diffusion to add escaneo corporal, which explains what the meditation is about. So we have condensation. Instead of, it is a reduction of two or more terms into one. So we have this one, I'm sorry, but this is not marked. This is a mistake. A room full of Americans is reduced into group. Just group. Okay, so a room full of Americans is reduced just to group. Okay, so in this case we're using condensation. Instead of using all of these words, we're just reducing it to group. The last one of Malone's taxonomy procedure is reordering. Reordering is not specified in Binet and Darvenet's taxonomy, but it is included as in a sort of way in literal translation, because Binet and Darvenet think that reordering happens within literal translation. But Malone specifically has a procedure for this, and it refers to a necessary change of the word order. Reordering is necessary for a good flow in the target language. And this is true because after doing the analysis of my text, I noticed that I lacked reordering, and it did have a lack of good flow in the Spanish language. So by looking at this procedure, I knew that there was something that was still needed, and it happened specifically in this case. The source language started like this. When we feel we've lost it, need more of it, can improve our health with it, can generate well-being with it, what is this it? So it builds up into what is it, right? But in Spanish, we cannot do that. It sounds odd. So I had to change it to the very beginning of the question. ¿Qué es esto que sentimos que hemos perdido, que necesitábamos más de él, que podemos mejorar nuestra salud con él? Okay, so reordering is very important for a good flow, and that was something that was very useful for me during the translation of the articles. We're going to start with our conclusions. Not even 10 minutes yet. Okay, so we're going to start with our conclusions.
You're okay.
Binet and Darvenet and Joseph L. Malone's taxonomies complement each other as much as they converge in several of their procedures for analysis. I found that these two taxonomies actually helped me even more than maybe Binet and Darvenet would have on its own. Because what Binet and Darvenet did not touch, Joseph Malone did. And I really liked the experience of doing this through these two methods, because I felt that my translation was better for it. Malone's taxonomy includes 5 more procedures for analysis. It bundles several of Binet and Darvenet's procedures into 3 of his specific terms. If you notice, 6 of Binet and Darvenet's procedures were just within 3 of Malone's taxonomy, which left space for 5 more procedures to use, right? The resulting translation was further polished by using both taxonomies to analyze it. This was in part due to the new awareness of these new procedures and the need to discriminate between both. Okay, so with my new knowledge of these taxonomies, I was able to focus more on, well, should I use this? Should I analyze it through Malone's or Binet? Is this what I actually need in this part, or is this not it? Can I use something else from the other author? Okay, so they share similar traits, but at different levels, and I feel that they complement each other, and that is my conclusion for it. That's it. Thank you.
Tenemos 5 minutos para preguntas. ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta?
again and tell me, does it sound okay in Spanish? And they say, yes, it does, okay? And for me, it doesn't, right? So I guess it's just that we have to develop this ability or the knowledge of the language of Spanish more. But what suggestions can you give us for, I think many students here, so what suggestions can you give for students to develop that?
To develop the awareness.
Exactly.
Okay, that happened to me. I think that happened to me because I was more exposed to English, and the flow of English kind of just flows into my Spanish text. And I think that what we need to do is just read more, expose ourselves to more Spanish, but good Spanish. So I just think that it just needs more reading, right? That's something that I like because in my experience, I read a lot of English. So I expose myself to the flow of English. And I think that as language students, we do that to acquire the language, and that is perfect, that is good. But we also need to be good in our fourth language, in our mother tongue, into the language that we are going to translate. So I think my suggestion would be expose yourself to more Spanish, correct Spanish. And well, taxonomies such as this are very good when it comes to making sure that you have a good translation, a good flow. And then that's it.
I can add a little to your questions. As a supervisor, in my experience, what I notice is that during the process, they take the translation and they leave it for a while, they take it again and they leave it again. So when they go back to the text after a while, they discover that they translated some parts in the wrong way, and that can help. I mean, that's one way to do it. And another strategy I suggest my students to use is to give the text to somebody else who's not involved in the text to read it, no? And they will always tell you what sounds off or strange, and that can give you an idea of how good or bad you're going, no? In the translation.
That's something that I actually did during translation. That Mom, can you please check this? Like, do you think that it sounds odd? Like, another point of view helps a lot in doing the translation.
Yeah, because the supervisor gets also like too involved, no, in the text, so it's not a really good help sometimes.
All right, having been a supervisor also in this work, I'd like to address the crowd with some general ideas about translation. There's some theoretical stuff. No, of course, translation is of paramount importance in today's globalized world. And translators and interpreters are extremely important because we connect the cultural network at the worldwide level. Communication among people is one of the greatest riches humankind has. And there's another point to be kept in mind. The only non-destructive alternative to violence is communication, centered on this privileged instrument which is a human language. So there is an inverse proportionality between communication and violence. In the situation where we have more communication, there is less risk to enter confrontations. Translation should be, for these reasons and other reasons, should be compulsory in every language learning program. Languages are not different systems. They are intertwined in our brains, just like the DNA double spiral. And there cannot be any globalization without translation and interpreting. It will be impossible. So, I strongly use all our students to learn more languages. Don't just start with English. English is a conditio sine qua non, but if you can manage 3, 4, 5 languages, you made it. You can go around the world, every big city will give you a job as interpreter, translator, or language teacher. So we hope your world doesn't end up in Cancun or in Chumuhubu. Right. then, un'ultima idea. I hear these days the methods for learning language, blah, 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 are extremely deep and very in-depth research. You want to learn foreign language, very simple. You go to the language you want to learn the language of. You have a native falling in love with you. When you reach the appropriate level, you say, our love is over, my love, and you can move to another country. You do this in 4 years, you can reach a good command of 4 languages.